Letting go of psychological time. Learn to use time in the practical aspects of your life. We may call this clock time, but immediately return to present moment awareness when those practical matters have been dealt with. In this way, there will be no buildup of psychological time, which is identification with the past and continuous compulsive projection into the future. Clock time is not just making an appointment or planning a trip. It includes learning from the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over. I'm going to read that again. Clock time is not just making an appointment or planning a trip. It includes learning from the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over. Setting goals and working toward them. Predicting the future by means of patterns and laws, physical, mathematical, and so on. Learned from the past and taking appropriate action on the basis of our predictions. But even here, within the sphere of practical living, where we cannot do without reference to past and future, the present moment remains the essential factor. Any lesson from the past becomes relevant and is applied now. Any planning as well as working toward achieving a particular goal is done now. The enlightened person's main focus of attention is always the now, but they are still peripherally aware of time. In other words, they continue to use clock time, but are free of psychological time. Go ahead and continue here.
Be alert as you practice this so that you do not wittingly transform clock time into
Not physical, you just said this one.
psychological time. For example, if you made a mistake in the past and learn from it now, you are using clock time. On the other hand, if you dwell on it mentally and self-criticism,
remorse,
or guilt come up, then you are making the mistake into me and mine. You make it part of your sense of self, and it has become psychological time, which is always linked in a false sense of linked to a false sense of an identity. Non-forgiveness necessary implies a heavy burden of psychological time.
Okay, let me reread that paragraph you just read because this is pretty good. Be alert as you practice this so that you do not unwittingly transform clock time into psychological time. So there's a difference here between clock time and psychological time. For example, if you made a mistake in the past and learn from it now, you are using clock time. On the other hand, if you dwell on it mentally and self-criticism, remorse, or guilt come up, then you are making the mistake into me and mine. You make it part of your sense of self, and it has become psychological time. So, an example of this that you could relate to would be when you're playing baseball and the pitcher's throwing the balls, you're up to bat, and you don't even swing. In clock time, when you're thinking of that memory of how you felt, you don't think of how you felt. You're actually thinking of, okay, I didn't swing, and that was the problem. The next time I'm up to bat, I'm going to swing. And then you go up to bat, and then you swing. Okay? That's using clock time. Psychological time is you think of how you didn't swing, and you tell yourself that, I'm a loser, I don't know how to play baseball, I suck at this. You get emotional and you get sad whenever it's your turn to go up to bat because you're connecting your experience of loss or failure to who you are. When realistically, you are not that thing, right? You are you, your soul, your entity. So, carry on from here. If you set yourself.
If you set yourself a goal and work towards it, you are using clock time. You are aware of where you want to go, but you honor and give out your fullness attention to the step that you are taking at this moment. If you then become excessively focused on the goal, perhaps because you are seeking happiness, fulfillment, or a more complete sense of self in it, the now is no longer honored. It becomes reduced into a mere stepping stone,
right?
Stepping stone into the future with no intrinsic value.
Don't add letters to words when you're reading. It just says value, not valuable.
Value.
Okay? Being tired has nothing to do with reading the book. So when you're reading, focus on what you're doing now. If you try to go too fast because you want to finish reading and you don't want to do this in this moment, it's going to cause you to jumble your words and you're not going to make any sense. Not only out loud, but to yourself, to your mind. What I've learned is that when I'm reading things, even if I kind of don't understand some areas, I pick up on the things that I'm able to at my current level of awareness. The next time I read, this isn't the first time I've read this book. So now that I'm reading this with you, I'm actually learning new things that I didn't learn before because my level of awareness is higher than it was before. Does that make sense to you? So it's important to take your time when you're reading. Some things might not make sense, others will. And the next time you read it in the future, or you come back to this because you think about something, you're like, oh man, this really reminds me of that one book that I read. Let me go back and look into that real quick because I feel like I might find an answer in that book, right? Because this is knowledge. This is not a book where you're sitting here and you're reading about some kind of superhero doing something or a fictitious character doing fictitious activities. This is a real man sharing his knowledge on how he perceives existence, our experience in existence, right? So this is, for one, it's not a level 1 read. 2, you're learning as you go. So that's why it's so hard to catch on a lot of this stuff, because you're not just reading the cat ran down the road. You're reading that the enlightened person's main focus of attention is always the now, but they are still peripherally aware of time. See, that there's a lot more information then in that one sentence than Bob jumped in the car and drove down the road to see his friend. You see what I'm saying? So I'll continue this paragraph. Clock time then turns into psychological time. Your life's journey is no longer an adventure, just an obsessive need to arrive, to attain, to make it. When clock time becomes psychological time, clock time is better than psychological time, if you haven't picked up on that. Psychological time is where you make your memory who you are, instead of your memory being a lesson for you to grow. If it's a lesson for you to grow, that's clock time. If you make your past memory who you are, that's psychological time. Your life's journey is no longer an adventure, just an obsessive need to arrive, to attain, to make it. So your obsessive need to arrive, to attain, to make it, right? That's your ego wanting to get somewhere, and that's when you'll be happy, right? Oh, I'll be happy when I have the big house. I'll be happy when I have the supercar. I'll be happy when I get the job. And really none of that is true. That's a fault. It's a lie that people sell themselves. If you're not happy now being who you are, you will never be happy when you get the things that you perceive will bring you happiness. Why? Because where does happiness come from? From in here, that's right, from within us. We choose happiness. We don't receive happiness, we choose happiness. Jim Rohn says that giving starts the process of receiving. So in order for you to receive happiness, you have to give happiness. And the cool thing about it is that by you giving, if you stepped into a room and there was no happiness and you came in and you were like, started giving out happiness, the room would now have happiness. That means you would be receiving happiness. Does that make sense to you? If you had a cup and it didn't have any water and you gave it water, now you would have a cup full of water, right? So by you giving the water, you are receiving the water. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. You have to wrap your head around this and really, really look at everything you do as you are giving in order to receive. And that's not why you're giving, but if you're wanting to receive, you have to give it. And sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes no one's perfect. We get caught in our emotion, right? And we think bad thoughts. In those moments when it seems like it's very hard, that's when you have to give the most. That's when you have to just give. If you give to as you give out, you will receive back. The universe will make sure you receive back tenfold. God is good in that way. So let me finish this up. You no longer see or smell the flowers by the wayside either, nor are you aware of the beauty and the miracle of life that unfolds all around you when you are present in the now. Go ahead and read these two and we'll stop it right here.
I can see the supreme importance of the now, but I cannot quite go along with you. When you say that time, it is a complete illusion.
Illusion, yeah. So real quick, you remember this little emblem here, right? That's letting you know that someone is responding to him, right? Sorry. He was speaking, and throughout his life, he says this in the beginning of the book. In the preface, he says that you're going to see different ways of different writings, different ways of writing, right? This is italicized, and it's after this symbol. And that's to let you know that he once gave a speech on this subject, and while he was at the speech, someone raised their hand or they approached him afterward, and they said this to him. They said, I can see the supreme importance of the now, but I cannot quite go along with you when you say that time is a complete illusion. He's saying, you know, I understand this whole idea of now being important, but I don't understand how you're saying time is made up. It's fictitious. It's illusion. And then go ahead and read his response.
When I say that time is an illusion, my intention is not to make a philosophical statement. I am just reminding you of a simple fact. A fact so obvious that you may find it hard to grasp, and may even find it meaningless, but once fully realized, it can cut like a sword through all the mind-created layers of complexity and problems. Let me say it again. The present moment is all you ever have. There is never a time when your life is not this moment. Is this not a fact?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get your notebook. I want to reread that paragraph. When I say time is an illusion, my intention is not to make a philosophical statement. I am just reminding you of a simple fact, a fact so obvious that you may find it hard to grasp and may even find it meaningless. But once fully realized, it can cut like a sword through all the mind-created layers of complexity and problems. Let me say it again. The present moment is all you ever have. There is never a time when your life is not this moment. Is this not a fact? So that's today, correct? Yes. That's in that statement. He's basically, he says this, that there is never a time when your life is not this moment, like this moment right now. Your life is not all the stuff that happened before you. That's gone. That time does not come back. What you have now is this immediate moment, right? So allowing the thinker to have control, and when there's conversations in your mind, those trailers that you watch, allowing those trailers to just play out the movie, that is manipulating the now by something that is not now. Something that is from the past, right? So, and if you're in the now, manipulating your current position in existence by what you say you are because of what has happened in the past, that is psychological time. And that's not good, because you're attaching your essence to what you were or what you experienced or what has happened in the past, instead of being in the moment now and being in the presence or being in the consciousness of I am now. I am right here doing this thing. You see what I'm saying? All right.